This is a brief intro to CPE 233, and we covered the main portion of the syllabus, but there's some stuff I want to emphasize, and then there's some other items in this document. So the course is a hybrid course, and it's primarily a flipped course. All the lectures are pre-recorded, and they're available on Canvas. And in theory, you're only supposed to attend class after doing the reading and or watching the videos, but I know no one does that. I encourage you to come to class prepared, and that's going to be the most effective way to get a good grade in the class. So all the lecture material is from the videos, so if you don't want to come to class, you really don't need to, although I do want the experiments generally demoed. So I will be on campus most Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. I foresee missing some days, and those days I will be working from home, generally speaking. So the TAs for the course, there's one TA for each section. There used to be more TAs, but they, don't have enough money for those, so they tell me. There's also a Discord server. I will get that posted for the kind of the address of that, and you can use that as well. There's first assignment is a student survey. It has 6 or 7 questions on it. It helps me get a feel for what's going on, where people are coming from. The only thing you need to put on that is your name. Other questions, it's up to you whether you want to answer them or not. It would help me if you answered those questions. So I'd like to give out a little bit of personal information for the class, and just so people know that I'm not a robot or anything. Anyway, I did take K through 12 in a very isolated, very white town. It was very unchallenging. I was pretty much bored with K through 12, and until essentially when I was 16, I discovered music, and for the next 7 years, I guess, I was working in the grocery store as a grocery clerk, and at night I was working as a musician. As far as academia goes, I got tired of the music. I was losing my hearing, and I hated the management. And so I started back at college when I was 22. I actually went to Cal Poly. My first quarter here was fall '86 when I was 25. I found out there's just like a ton of pressure at every level in academia, which is not helpful. And it seems like everyone's always testing you rather than helping you, and which is not optimal in my mind. I actually am a woodworker. In particular, I will work on stringed instruments. For example, I will fix your violin and rehair your bow if you're a violin player. So my main requirement in this class is that you know the material by week 11. My student experience was absolutely horrible. I actually got good grades, but I learned very little. The idea was I was excellent at predicting what professors were going to put on the exams and quizzes, and also I seem to have everyone's old work, and typically back then, and probably now too, that the instructors didn't change the work. And so anyway, like I said, I got good grades, didn't learn much. So you're not going to be able to do that in this class. I pretty much rewrite every quiz. I don't really reuse old quizzes. If you don't know material, you're not going to do well on the quizzes, and particularly on the 2 final exams. As far as cheating goes, I know there's a ton of stuff out there from previous quarters. I did my best to change a bunch of this over the winter break, and so I'm going to warn people in advance that if you're using someone else's work, you better be discreet about it. If you turn in work that's obviously not yours, such as answering the wrong question or doing the wrong experiment, I'm just going to give you a low grade on the final. A low grade on the experiment and not grade it. So don't do that. So the idea is, if you have people's work, you're supposed to use it to learn the material. Don't use it to get a grade, because it's not going to work for you. As far as respect goes, I don't really care if you show up to class or not. If you do show up to class, my main requirement is that if I'm talking, that you remain quiet. So that means you're more than welcome to work on your experiment, talk quietly to your neighbor, mess around with your phone, anything like that. I don't consider that disrespectful. It's disrespectful if you make noise while I'm trying to talk and other people are trying to listen. But so that's the only thing I don't want to see. So my weird quirks are my hearing's really, really bad. I do like people to treat each other with respect. Get pretty bummed out when they don't. And my God, don't come to class sick, particularly in this day and age. All the material's online. You're not going to miss anything. Don't come to class sick. So cheating, like I said, it's your mission to learn this stuff. And when people cheat, I take it personally. And like I said before, I changed a lot of the experiments. So be careful with it. If you're working off someone else's old work, keep in mind I do all the grading. Don't assume that I don't see what's going on if I don't mention it. Oftentimes I don't know, just makes me sad, and then I just don't say anything. And the sad part is that you're probably not going to do well in the class if you're relying on other people's work to get a grade. So quizzes will be on each Friday. Some will be in person, some will be on Canvas. I'll let people know in advance where it is. The Canvas quizzes are going to be long, and they have lots of time. In-person quizzes are short, and you have a lot less time. As far as the courseware goes, all the texts are posted on Canvas. Some of them I update as the quarter goes along, but they're pretty stable now. I was able to put a bunch of work into it over the winter break. The hardware is the Digilent 3 board. You need one per group. There used to be boards on the desk. I asked the management about it, about the upkeep on those, because I know a lot of those boards are broken, and I never got a reply. So this is BYOD. Bring your own device. Sorry about that. I did my best. I've been fighting this for 20 years, and I've absolutely given up. When they ghosted me when I asked them about it, I just give up. Homework, it's not submitted. There's no submitted homework. Essentially, there's tons of problems out there. You can do all of them or you can do none of them. It's up to you. You need to decide what you feel comfortable with. I think it's at some point you're going to realize, like, hey, I know this material, and it makes no sense to do more problems. But there are a ton of problems out there. There's like 6 or 7 quarters of old quizzes. There's sample problems. There's tons of problems in the book. Use them. There are 2 final exams. There's a lecture final and a lab final. The lab final is going to be short answer problems. Lecture final is solve problems. Lecture final is going to be during finals week, which is, I believe it's on Friday this year. Lab final is on the last day of normal class, last day of dead week. The experiments have generally low weighting because I know there's old experiments out there. And people work together on it, and I know with these groups, sometimes one person carries the group, and so that's why I keep the weighting pretty low. Weekly quizzes, we went over that. Minimum performance here. You got to do all the experiments to receive an A. If you miss some of the experiments, if you miss some of the experiments, your grade goes down. And it's listed on the syllabus. It's actually on another slide here. So you got to get a passing grade on both finals to pass the class. So it's been my focus for all these years. My motto is don't threaten and don't bribe students, and it just hasn't worked. So in all these 20 years, I've never taken off for a late anything, but that's going to change this quarter. So late submissions, essentially you get 10, there's 9 experiments, you get 10 free late days, and after 10, your grade is going to go down by your final grade is going to go down by 0.1% per late day. And, seriously, if you have, 5 experiments that are late, your grade's going to go down, look, a half a percentage point per day. You don't want to do that. So the way this formula works is if you turn everything in on time, your grade's going to be boosted a little bit. This is the bribe. If you submit all the experiments on time, do reasonably well on the quizzes, do good on the lab final, I'm going to excuse you from the lecture final. So this is kind of a high bar, but several people per quarter usually meet this. And my thinking is you don't want to take the exam. I don't want to grade it because I know you're going to do well if you've done well on everything else. The other threat here is that there's a maximum grade you're going to get if you're missing experiments. You're missing one experiment, the maximum letter grade you're going to get in the class is B+, and it goes down from there. It's listed on the syllabus. So I need really quality lab submissions. The lab submissions are not lab reports. The high quality lab reports are just super easy to grade. It kind of shows me that you know what's going on and are conscientious about, submitting good work. And so I do all the grading, and the idea here is I'm a stickler for good looking code. And you gotta put this code into a document. I don't want screenshots of the code. It needs to be really good. If you drop it in the document, you need to go look at it. If it's not perfect, literally, if it's not perfect, I'm taking 10% off right off the top. I guess that should be a threat, but forgot to put it in there. And so inside the lab manual, there is a guide to what represents a good experiment. Follows those guidelines. It's like 3 pages, but you know what? It all makes sense, and it's not really hard to follow. I primarily use Verilog. I know you were taught System Verilog for one reason or another, which is something I don't agree with. I think there's a lot of good reasons for using Verilog rather than System Verilog. So Verilog is a subset of System Verilog. The notion is System Verilog is all about verification, lots of verification tools in there that we don't use. This class is absolutely not about verification, unfortunately, but that's where we're at. Essentially, it's not a big deal. You can mix Verilog and System Verilog in the same project. It's not a big deal. So that's it on that one. So diversity statement, in the syllabus, there's an abbreviated version, and in Canvas, there's a full version. So in short, I think all students have the ability to succeed. I know everyone's experience coming into this class is different, and ideally I should be able to support all those learning styles, and I do my best to do that. And so my notion here is I try to treat people equitably, not necessarily equal. So I try to give people what they need to succeed under the notion that different people need different things to succeed. So the university here, very pretentious. Cal Poly is a name school. I encourage you not to buy into the hype. We're all working hard here to do the best we can. Generally speaking, your hard work is rewarded. Generally speaking, not always. And I know some people get away with not working hard, but I do my best to catch those people in this class. And the idea here is don't let anything tweak you. Just work hard, learn the material, and you should be fine. It's always a notion that other people's knowledge or position is very intimidating. Don't be intimidated. The people who know more than you do essentially put in the hard work to learn that stuff, and you're not less because you don't know it. You're on the road to learning it. So don't be put off by that. I know some people have attitudes also, and teachers have attitudes and all that stuff. Seriously, just don't buy into it. And the big mystery of why students do so poorly in this class, it could be because I suck. I don't know. I think it could be because your 133 teacher didn't prepare you. For example, They didn't actually have you do any design. They didn't actually have you use the simulator using a test bench. And you got squeaked by without really understanding the ins and outs of Verilog. So I hope those are not the issues here. Also, people are used, in my opinion, people in academia are used to getting by without really knowing the material. That's not going to happen in here. I'm going to test you, give you new problems, test your ability to figure things out, not test your ability to regurgitate stuff. Also, students seem to dislike programming. Well, Verilog looks like programming, but it's not, so that's an issue. And it is assembly language, and we are going to be programming with assembly language, so you do have to learn programming in this class. The course is absolutely not wingable. Very doable, not wingable. You're not going to catch up in the last week if you're way behind. The material, it's not complicated, but there's lots of it, and you got to make it make sense to you. You got to make it fit. And so I encourage you, don't be discouraged, don't fall behind. You fall behind, you're probably not going to catch back up. So success in this course means you need to make all those ideas fit together and make them make sense to you. If you understand them, there's nothing I can ask you that you won't be able to figure out. Also, along the way, you need to ask a ton of questions if you got them. Generally speaking, the people who ask the most questions usually get the best grade in this course.